Hey, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Deb Coviello. I am so excited today to be joined by Jackie Lauer. Welcome to Live Talk Media, Jackie.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so how are things by you? How's your day going so far?
So, I keep saying it's pandemic time. This is Groundhog Day over and over again, but I'm really grateful that it's a good day.
All right, well, awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. And the reason why I wanted to bring you on today, so first of all, for those of you that don't know Jackie, I've known Jackie for about 6 months. She joined me on the Drop In CEO podcast, episode 7, How to Be a Bold Leader and Put Humans First. But she has so inspired me. She is so knowledgeable in the area of culture. A little bit about her background. She's grown up and worked significantly in the technology arena. She has a passion to create leaders and high performing cultures, expertise in coaching, change management, neuro leadership, and of course, mediation. So, we are going to talk about how to teach company ethos or culture to emerging leaders because I find going into new organizations, trying to figure out the culture can be so daunting, especially for new people. But you're an expert in this area. And I'm curious, Jackie, when you go into an organization, what are some of the biggest challenges organizations have just to kind of unpack what might be holding them back? And how can you help them to be a thriving culture? I just love to know your thoughts on this.
Girl, those are big questions.
And
I spent a lot of time in the startup world because I work at the Accelerator Center in Kitchener-Waterloo, and these are people who are just excited to launch their product and get it to market. And they usually dismiss me in terms of the leadership and culture stuff. Yeah, we get it, until they don't. And so typically I'm brought in not because a leader wants to talk about culture, but it's when they are experiencing just frustrating things like why is one region of our organization and another region getting buy-in for some new technology, and why is one region over another region understanding the comp models that we're changing. Some change strategy is broken, and so they'll usually know intuitively that there seems to be different behavior with different leaders, but they don't always wrap their mind around that's workplace culture. And so it's an education piece around the behaviors that we reward in organizations come from the things that we value and the things that we believe. So it's helping to, as you said, I love that you said unpack. It's helping the leaders of the organization understand that we often unconsciously reward behavior based on the things that we believe will be useful. And when a leadership team does that rewarding consciously and intentionally, we'll do a better job of scaling our culture to help us align the leaders and our employees and get things done faster.
so I'm curious as a follow on, the work that you do, do you spend more time coaching the leaders and unpacking their behaviors, or is it more of a team dynamic? I mean, where do you start your work? You have to have a sit down with the leader to say, hey, we got to talk, or is it team? We need to talk about this.
Yeah, it's 100% team.
Okay.
However, so it's when you can come at it from both perspectives at the same time that it's useful. So I could think about, I'm working with a marketing agency right now, working with the entire leadership team. And while they never used the word culture, they finally got to the point of like, oh, now that we're aligned around our mission, why we do what we do, our vision, where the heck we're going, that's a start in and of itself, as you know. But they're suddenly realizing if they're aligned in terms of what it takes to lead that organization and what those behaviors must be, then it's even more effective to get the stuff done that they said they want to get done. Because the thing that gets in the way is the execution through human beings. Because we have different beliefs about what excellent leadership is, or different beliefs what great communication is. And when you can align those, you'll just get the work done faster with less annoying conflict.
I know. I mean, there's so much wasted energy when you're trying to kind of swim your way through what is going on here. I just want to do a good day's work, but I have to deal with all of this other noise. And it's sometimes hard to navigate through this. But I'm curious, let's just bring up a little bit more tactical. When you said those behaviors that are rewarded that build that culture over time, what's an example of a behavior that had been rewarded that was no longer serving an organization and you had to transition it to a new behavior that as the team, it started servicing them towards their goals?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about a conversation I had with a CEO and a VP HR yesterday because I started working with them about 4 years ago. And they're an organization where safety is what they do. So it's clearly a core value. It's like, if that's what they're selling, I won't say who they are, just out of respect to them. I didn't get their permission. So clearly safety is a core value. And what they noticed is that at times, how do I word this in a way that's respectful? At times, the message that their people were receiving was there's no room for innovation. It's only about safety. And so they had to come to a place of, yes, acknowledge that safety is a number one priority. So that's also about priorities, not just behavior.
Okay.
And what behavior are we rewarding that's diminishing innovation? And so, and they weren't even conscious. It wasn't a conscious thing. It was just like, well, no, safety first. And so what happened was over time, people stopped putting forth ideas because of that. They don't like new stuff around here. Safety first. Yes, safety first. And we innovate. And then it became, so what language, what behavior do we need to incorporate to say 100% this is what innovation looks like to us?
Exactly.
I think I spent a lot of time in tech as well. And so you think about product development.
Mhm.
So you get the standard conflicts in terms of behavior and values, speed or quality, right? Which one wins?
Well, you're talking to a quality person.
Right?
I'll say quality, but in innovation and tech, it's probably speed.
And having really good, meaty conversations about when they compete, which one wins, but how do you allow them both to exist? Paradoxes are beautiful, but we need to talk about what that looks like when they compete. And people are so uncomfortable with conflict in general, they just dismiss it. It's like, no, let's talk about what that looks like when they rear their heads together, and we say, how do we navigate through a paradox of two so-called competing values? How can they serve each other and serve our customer, right?
I mean, so often you can lose the individual. They see this culture, okay, tech, okay, speed is king and quality. And then just people just kind of sit on the sidelines like, okay, I'm not going to even bring something up, just to your point. And you leave these people confused and shaking their head. I guess I'll just fall in line.
It's so true. And so to me, it's just about teaching leaders and organizations just to, as Brene Brown would say, rumble, like get into the discomfort of the conversation when we feel like we're competing with each other and figure out, where is it really coming from? Where did we create those narratives and stories inside the company? Is it old narratives that are still around 30 years later, even 5 years later? And just teaching people, especially leaders, the skill set of, let's dig into this and notice that, hey, maybe Deb and I are having a disagreement about something. Let's peel back the layers of the onion in a way that's respectful and serves us and the organization, and learning to have those kinds of conversations to figure out what's happening in the system that's creating that tension with us.
It could be so painful, however, and I talk about this on my podcast. I've raised my hand. I've asked that hard question. Sometimes it came out before I thought. And then, bam, you're quieted. And so how do we in an organization build that safe environment for people to have the courage to be able to say something, even if it doesn't make sense in the moment? It's so frustrating. I mean, I guess what would you advise leaders to encourage people to speak their mind?
You're making me think right now in this moment, because I had a client just deal with this, like the Patrick Lencioni model around the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And you go, it's got to start with trust. And what's the word we're all using today is psychological safety.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you like, I would die if I feel like I shut someone down. I would just be horrified. And so it's about, I've got this leader right now in an organization, and she's super, super bright, but her direct reports are saying she's not approachable. She shuts us down. She micromanages, but the people above her, like, she's brilliant. She's awesome. I'm like, yeah, we got to help her figure out what is happening in her tone and her body language and her reactions that's telling her people she doesn't want to hear from them. And she's getting her, and she wrote, like, she actually just wrote me last night. She's like, oh my God, like, this is stressful, but it's so insightful hearing what it is that I am doing unintentionally that's shutting people down. So I said, we're going to start there, help her build that capacity to ask for feedback, to genuinely receive it, to be curious about herself and others and how they interact. The more she can do that, the more she'll build trust. The more trust she builds, the more performance and innovation she's going to get from her people.
You know, so important what you bring up there, being open to ask for feedback and then to graciously receive it, contemplate, and consider feedback.
Yeah.
I talk about this so much, but you know, this conversation, I want to bring it back a little bit to the emerging leader, the high performer that comes into a new organization, comes in with bright ideas. They've been stroked. You're going to be the future. You're going to be the future leader. And they all of a sudden, smack in the face, see culture, see challenges with culture. Now, while your work works on the culture to help it thrive and give leaders that insight, but somebody new to an organization or a situation or a team, what kind of advice would you give to that person that wants to perform? How can they learn about culture, navigate it, and maybe even set an example of the right culture? What are your thoughts?
Oh, so many hit me all at once. I was thinking about this one fellow I've got right now. Oh my gosh. I said to him, you're starting to piss people off because the way he's observing the culture with brilliance. So I would say just observe and respectfully challenge fundamental assumptions that sit inside the organization. Just check in. It's like, here's what I'm noticing. Yeah. Are these still serving you? Are you guys wanting to change that? It's like, be very respectful. So I say separate fact from interpretation. Fact is, I'm noticing this is a common behavior around here, or it's a common ritual or celebration or process, and just respectfully observe it. Say, here's the impact I believe that it might be having. Do you think it's still serving you? So it's having that sort of that non-judgmental, curious way of being as they observe. The emerging leader observes the patterns in the culture. That's just one of many thoughts. To get, in terms of their own style of leadership, is to really model that deep curiosity about how they're being received. Like, I love asking new clients and just saying to them, so this is like our second time together. What do you need more of and less of from me? If someone's going to ask you about me and my style, what would you tell them? I just get them more and more comfortable with being bold in terms of the way they give me feedback. And the more I do that, the better they also get at receiving it, because I can model for them. Their perspective is useful. I decide what's useful to me, and I hand back the stuff I'm not interested in. Like, really learning to ask for feedback and learning to give it in a way that doesn't do damage to the relationship or the trust.
I so appreciate you, Jackie. I mean, we had a great conversation back in March. I brought you back, looking forward to having you speak at one of our events. You are amazing when it comes to just sharing some insight about culture and how to navigate the complexity. And like, to your point, observe, be curious, ask questions, model the right behavior, because ultimately you may be the one that people follow.
Absolutely.
So amazing. Any last thoughts you want to share with us? Because this, I sincerely appreciate your time.
I was thinking earlier, I said, sometimes I avoid the word culture because it implies it's complicated and it can be so vague and hard to wrap your head around. So I'm just really getting better at saying, when we learn to understand what in the system is driving our behaviors, will help us to just do a better job of moving this company forward. And it's not overcomplicated, but each conversation we have moves us forward or backwards. So one conversation at a time to build trust, whether it's with a customer or a client or with your own staff or any stakeholders. Every conversation moves us forward or in trust, or it takes a step back, and just get brilliant at conversation.
All right, beautiful advice. For those of you that want to learn more about Jackie, she's got a website, jackielauer.com. We're going to stay in touch. You are doing amazing work. I appreciate you inspiring me and sharing your thoughts on culture for emerging leaders. Thank you so much and have
Thank
a
you for
fantastic day.
having me.
All right, be well, Jackie. Okay.